You wake up every day being an improved version of yourself, only in your head. For 45 seconds under the shower, you've already solved all your problems. You've already imagined the hard conversations you're going to have. You've already built the confidence you need. You've already mentally transformed into someone who doesn't hesitate, doesn't procrastinate, doesn't self-sabotage. But when you step out of the shower, when you step into the bedroom, when you sit in the chair of your real life, you find out that nothing has changed. Your patterns are right there, untouched, waiting for you like an old toxic friend. You promise yourself that today will be different. You make a mental list of the things you aren't going to do anymore. You swear you're going to face that situation that scares you. You decide, for real, that the time for being weak is over. But at 3 p.m, when the pressure hits, when discomfort knocks on the door, you go back to your old habits as if that morning decision had never happened. And the worst part, the part that hurts the most, isn't the failure itself. It's the feeling that there is a version of you who knows exactly what to do, who knows the right answer, who sees with absolute clarity that you are sabotaging yourself. But that version is trapped inside you, screaming to be heard while the rest of you remains asleep. If you recognize this, if this feeling of disconnection between who you want to be and who you really are is part of your day, then you need to watch this video until the end. Because what I'm going to share here isn't just another cheap motivation that makes you feel good for 20 minutes before going back to the same state. It's not an inspiring story of someone who won the genetic lottery. This is the exact neurobiological map of how to let the weak version of you die, without drama, without guilt, permanently. If you want to understand how to hack your own mind, how to make the transformation you feel you deserve, how to finally create a self that doesn't fight against itself, subscribe to the Mr. Nan channel right now. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to explain not just why you fail, but exactly how to stop failing. This video isn't motivation. It is personal engineering. The first thing you need to understand is that you are not weak. That is the lie you are telling yourself. You are not lazy. You don't lack discipline because you are built wrong. The much more interesting truth is that your brain is working exactly how it was programmed to work. And that programming wasn't made for the world you live in right now. There is a villain here, but it's not you. It's an archaic neurobiological system that still governs most of your decisions, especially when you are under pressure. It's called the amygdala, but I'm not going to call it the amygdala because that name means nothing to you. I'm going to call it your primitive threat detector. And this detector was designed by evolution to keep you alive in an environment full of lions, not to make you produce, create, face emotional challenges, or deal with social rejection. Imagine it like this. Your brain is a house with several rooms. In the basement of this house, with no windows, no light, there is an ancient creature. This creature spent 3 million years learning one thing, and only one thing, with absolute perfection: how to keep the body alive. It learned to detect any sign of danger: a shadow moving fast, a weird sound, a situation it doesn't understand, an unknown social environment, rejection from someone important, the possibility of failure. This creature doesn't reason. It just feels and reacts. And when it detects a threat, it does 3 things. First, it floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline, prepping you to fight, flight, or freeze. Second, it temporarily shuts down the part of your brain that thinks, that plans, that sees the future clearly. And third, it triggers your oldest, most automatic, safest behavior patterns. Those patterns you've already tested 1,000,000 times, that you know work, that keep you safe. When you woke up this morning determined to change, that was you. It was the best of you. That part that can think, that can see beyond the immediate moment, that knows what is right. But 3 in the afternoon rolled around. Someone criticized you. You faced a situation you didn't expect, and that creature in the basement suddenly woke up. It scanned the situation. It didn't understand the pattern. It interpreted it as a threat. And in milliseconds, without you deciding anything, it shut down the thinking part of you and turned on autopilot. Suddenly, you were eating when you didn't want to eat. You were avoiding when you wanted to face it. You were lying when you wanted to be honest. You were sabotaging yourself when you wanted to move forward. And later, when the threat passes, you come back to clarity. You see what you did, and you hate yourself for not pulling it off. But here is what changes everything. That creature in the basement isn't evil. It is not your enemy. It is protection. For millions of years, it kept your ancestors alive. It did what it needed to do. And now, in this 26th century, it is still right here inside you. Sincere, dedicated, doing its job flawlessly. The problem isn't that it exists. The problem is that you never learned to talk to it. You never taught it what the new environment you live in looks like. You never explained that that criticism is not a lion, that that failure is not death, that that rejection doesn't mean you are worthless. You've left this primitive threat detector running on data from 3 million years ago, trying to protect you from dangers that no longer exist, while stopping you from moving toward the challenges that actually matter. Now comes the part where everything truly changes. Because that old version of you, the one that self-sabotages, the one that fails repeatedly, the one that goes back to the same patterns every damn time, it doesn't need to be destroyed. It doesn't need to be eliminated. It needs to be integrated. And there is a scientific process to do this, a process you can start this very day that will progressively create a new self. A self that doesn't self-sabotage. A self that can stick to the decisions it makes. A self that actually changes. The process starts with understanding and exposure. When you wake up tomorrow and make your mental list of the transformations you're going to make, you need to do something radically different from what you do now. Instead of just being aware of the decision, you need to become a scientific observer of your own mind. You need to start noticing, with photographic precision, the exact moments that creature in the basement wakes up. What the exact trigger is. Was it when the person raised their voice? Was it when you started thinking about failure? Was it when someone didn't reply to your message? Was it when you were left alone with your thoughts? You need to map this out with the precision of a neuroscientist mapping synapses. Because when you can name the threat, when you can clearly see what the signal is that awakens the old pattern, you start to develop something neuroscientists call narrative distance. Suddenly, that automatic urge isn't you being weak anymore. It's you observing a biological pattern activating. It's you seeing a fire starting to get lit, but you still have time to grab the extinguisher before it blows up. Then comes the reframing part. This creature in the basement, this threat detector, collects information from the world through your feelings. When your heart races, when your hands shake, when that feeling of tightness in your chest shows up, it interpreted that as absolute confirmation that there is real danger. But here is what science has discovered, and this discovery changed everything. The physiological signals of anxiety and excitement are identical. They are exactly the same. Your body releases the same hormones. Your heart rate goes up the exact same way. Your breathing changes in the exact same manner. The only difference is how you internally narrate what is happening. If you tell yourself that that racing heart is fear, is a threat, your threat detector takes over. But if you can change the narrative, if you can say that it is excitement, it is energy, it is your body mobilizing to do something important, everything changes. Your own physiology starts working with you instead of against you. So when that situation arrives, when that trigger activates, when that creature in the basement starts to wake up, you are not going to fight the feeling. You are going to do something much smarter. You are going to notice that the feeling is there. You are going to say out loud or in your mind, with all the conviction you can muster, "This is not fear. This is energy. This is my body getting ready to grow. This is the feeling of being alive, doing something that matters." And this is where it all gets practical. You are going to do what was planned before the trigger activated. If you decided you were going to tell the truth, you're going to tell it. If you decided you were going to try, you're going to try. If you decided you were going to sit down and work on the hard project, you're going to sit down. You're not going to mentally debate it. You're not going to give the threat detector time to convince you to activate the safe patterns. This doesn't work 100% of the time on the first try. It is important that you know that. Because when you fail, when that creature still manages to take over, when you still end up going back to the old pattern, guilt comes in and tries to convince you that you are hopeless, that this doesn't work, that you simply can't change. But that guilt is a scientific liar. Because every time you manage to hold on to the decision even for 5 minutes while that automatic urge wants to pull you back, you are strengthening the new pattern. You are building a new neural pathway. Research in neuroplasticity shows that every time you resist the automatic pattern, every time you manage to do something different when that threat signaled by the primitive detector is screaming for you to stop, you are literally rewiring your brain. You are telling that old system through action, no, it's not going to be like this. There is a new map now, and this system is going to learn. That old version of you, the one that self-sabotages, the one that fails repeatedly, is not going to disappear overnight. It will gradually fade. It will stop controlling your important decisions. It will become a whisper that you can hear, but don't need to obey. And one day, a few months from now, you'll be in a situation that would previously trigger you immediately, and you will realize that you don't feel anything anymore. The threat detector didn't activate. The protection system didn't wake up. Because you created so much evidence that it isn't actually dangerous, that the system simply stopped reacting. And it's on that day that you will realize you've truly changed. That you really aren't the same person anymore. Not because you were reborn, not because you had an epic moment of revelation, but because you consistently, day after day, made small choices that contradicted the old system. Now I want you to imagine something. Imagine yourself 2 years from now. If you stay the way you are right now, if you keep letting that creature in the basement drive your important decisions, where will you be? Probably in the exact same places, with the same problems, with the same people, with the same relationship with yourself. Watching opportunities pass you by while that old threat detector keeps you safe, small, and stagnant. Listening to people who started in the same place as you, who faced the same fears as you, who are now in a completely different spot because they managed to do what you are reading right now. Imagine how much you're going to miss this moment, this chance, when you're there 2 years from now. Because you'll understand that everything that held you back was exactly this: a lack of understanding of how your own mind works. But now imagine another version. Imagine yourself 2 years from now if you start today, right now, with this new understanding. Imagine having developed the ability to see your patterns honestly and without drama. Imagine being able to feel the fear, the anxiety, the uncertainty, and still doing what matters anyway. Imagine the relationship with yourself changing. Imagine the people around you starting to notice that something has shifted in you, that you are no longer the same, that you can actually keep the promises you make to yourself. Imagine creating things you thought you couldn't create. Imagine being someone you truly respect. Imagine knowing with absolute certainty that when you decide something, it's going to happen. What kind of person do you become? What kind of life do you build? Which of the two versions do you choose? Because that creature in the basement, that threat detector, that old part of you that is still trying to protect you with 3 million-year-old tools, is still there. But it doesn't have to be your boss. It doesn't have to steer you. It can be integrated. It can become a collaborating part of your system instead of a sabotaging part. And this process, this transformation, starts with one step. A step you take when you change the channel, when you subscribe to Mr. Nan. Because here, in this space, you are going to learn to be honest with yourself about how your mind actually works. You're going to learn to hack your own patterns. You're going to learn to integrate this protective creature instead of letting it destroy you. You're going to learn to become someone who can keep their own promises. And when you manage to do that, when that new self has been built through action and understanding, you will realize that the old self didn't die. It evolved, and you became capable of something that previously seemed impossible. Being honest, being brave, being consistent, even when everything inside you is screaming to go back to the old path. Subscribe, because you deserve to know how your own mind works. You deserve to become that person who sees clearly. You deserve to let that old self die, not with violence, but with understanding. And that process starts today.